What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast and today we've got the video you've all been waiting for. By far, this is going to be the most insane GBL video you will see this year, and honestly, this is probably a step above last year's competition as well. Today, we've got the 2026 Battle of Spice World Championships. Now, in order to be featured in this video, you had to earn your place either by winning or making it to the final of a previous Battle of Spice competition, so you already know these guys are legit, but this time around, they've taken it to a completely new level. There are 28 different submissions today, and I had considered splitting this into two parts, but honestly, if you can't sit through 45 minutes of the most insane wins in the history of the Go Battle League, then that's on you. Anyways, with that being said, let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight into the question of the day. What is your favorite GBL video of all time? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the 2026 Battle of Spice World Championships now. I should go into the first battle, and we are starting things off with a triple level 50 cat team here, leading with a purified Glameow running Return and Thunderbolt as its charge move options. The opponent goes for Hydro Cannon. Glameow able to hang on there, reaching a Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt does huge damage, and Glameow able to win the zero shield scenario up against a Feraligatr. That was absolutely insane, but we are just getting started. We're now going to come in with a Purloin, able to outpace the Mimikyu, going for a Night Slash. The opponent is going to no shield. Of course, that is still not going to deal any damage, but it drops the opponent's defense. Now, this is just a Shadow Sneak, which we're able to hang on to, and now we swap out into our Litten. We're going to come in, go immediately for a Crunch here. Crunch is going to grab the first shield from the opponent, and the opponent is now going to fire off another Shadow Sneak. Of course, we're going to have to start using our shields here, but we can outpace them here. We are very spammy with Ember as the fast move. We can go for a second Crunch. Crunch gets the knockout, and the opponent's final Pokemon is going to be a Tinkaton, but we're able to swap out, catch a Bulldoze onto a Purloin. Bulldoze is going to get the knockout, and now here, do we go for the Flame Charge, or do we bait with a Crunch looking to get a debuff? Of course, Flame Charge boosts up our attack stat, but Crunch gets the debuff, and that is absolutely huge for us. Of course, Litten only 1166 CP. Flame Charge probably doesn't KO alone, but with the debuff, it takes out the Tinkaton, and we're able to take that game, but also at a very respectable elo range. Now, into the next battle, we have got a triple lock-on team here, and honestly, this is one of the worst things you could see in the lead when you've got zero fast move pressure, because unfortunately, Octazooka is just not going to deal much damage, but we do manage to get the debuff right away, so we've double debuffed their attack stat already. They're now going to boost it up straight away, but we're able to catch the second Rage Fist, where it's double resisted onto a Shadow Porygon Z. Now, the opponent is going to outpace us, but again, this is going to be resisted damage here, double resisted in actual fact, and so we're able to hang on, reaching a last second Tri Attack, gonna be shielded. However, unfortunately, this time around, we do not get a debuff. We can come back in with the Octillery, fire off the Octazooka. Octazooka, again, not going to get the debuff here, so at this point, we probably have to just no shield. We're now going to come in with our Shadow Gigalith. These Karate Chops dealing huge damage, but we do get the full farm down as the opponent comes in with a Licky Licky. Now, of course, we've got access to Superpower, however, we need 2 charge moves to get the KO anyways, and we don't really want to debuff ourselves. Now, the opponent actually choosing not to throw any energy at all. That might be on purpose because they realize, of course, we've still got 2 shields. Their final Pokemon is a Jellicent, and can Gigalith hang on here and reach 2 moves? It's going to be super close. Rock Slide number 1, Rock Slide number 2, we will just barely get there in time. Does this KO? Yes, it absolutely does, and we're able to take that game. So, heading into the next battle, we've just had the 10-year anniversary event in Pokemon Go, and this team is certainly celebrating that, as we've got 2 Party Hat Pokemon in Squirtle and Charmander, and we've also got the Balloon Pikachu. So, at this point, we've only got resisted damage to throw, but honestly, we might as well just stay in whilst we're also resisting the fast move pressure, and we're actually able to grab Bow Shields from the opponent, who, by the way, is also running some really cool Spice. Now, a bit of lag there. Looks like the opponent was lagging quite a lot. However, they did catch up there, and they did sneak a few Razor Leafs in before we were able to swap out, so hopefully not too much of an issue here, but either way, we're gonna look to shield as the opponent is on Brutal Swing, which is interesting to see. Honestly, Tropius hasn't really had that much play since it gained access to Brutal Swing, but here we're gonna have very close to back-to-back charge moves. Unfortunately, they come in with a Mud Slap Claydol, where we do get off the Flame Charge, but it doesn't really deal that much damage. We can now come back in with the Squirtle. Aqua Jet is gonna connect, but unfortunately, they can farm us down. But wait a second here, the opponent, they swap back into Sharpedo. we're going to have to, well, no, we no shield here, but they throw the next move, and that is absolutely amazing for us because now we can shield the next Poison Fang. We get the Thundershock farm down, and we come out with a Fly loaded. Absolutely huge for us. Fly gets the knockout up against the Claydol, and somehow we're able to take that game. Heading into the next battle, and this battle is actually going to be in the Ultra League. I didn't even mention this in the intro, but trainers had the option to submit in the Great League, Ultra League, or the Master League. We actually had 0 Master League submissions, which makes a lot of sense. Like, the power creep in the Master League these days is absolutely insane. It is so hard to run a even like remotely spicy team, but certainly a team that you could possibly win the Battle of Spice with in the Open Master League. So yeah, no Master League submissions, but we do have, I think, 4 or 5 Ultra League submissions, this being one of them. So here, we're able to chip with 2 crunches, swap out into Sharpedo, and go for a resisted Waterfall farm down. They come back in with Ampharos, but Sharpedo able to reach a departing Poison Fang. Poison Fang is going to grab a shield from the opponent. Of course, it's going to drop their defense. Now we come in with our Shadow Dart Manitan, and the opponent, it looks like they must have hesitated there because we get a full Incinerate through as they throw the charge move, and we're able to fully farm them down, and that should be game over. As the opponent comes in with Empoleon, we're going to bait with a Rock Slide. Honestly, doesn't really matter. These Incinerates are going to absolutely shred through their HP, but now we can go for the Overheat. Overheat comfortably gets the knockout there, and we're able to take that game. So heading into the next battle, we've got a shiny Esper in the lead up against a shiny Bowtie Lapras, which is cool to see. We're going to stay in this lead matchup as, of course, well, we've got 2 Fire-type Pokemon in the back, but also we are resisting the Psywave damage, and we've got super effective Energy Ball. So honestly, not that bad of a matchup for us. Energy Ball is going to connect. Unfortunately, doesn't quite put them into Confusion farm down range. However, we could shield if we wanted to, but nope. We're assuming, or hoping at least, that with Lapras gone, they don't have any super hard answers to our Fire type. So let's see what the opponent wants to do. That clearly is the case because they're going to come in with a Tropius. We just mentioned Tropius not really having much play since it gained access to Brutal Swing. Not as any correlation between it gaining access to Brutal Swing and not having any play. It's just a coincidence that the meta's kind of shifted in a way where Tropius just isn't really that good anymore. But anyways, we are going to overfarm considerably. Heat Wave going to grab the final shield. We're now going to swap out. It looks like we're trying to catch a last second Leaf Blade. We're now going to shield here, and the opponent is again on Brutal Swing. So interesting to see that. And now here we make a huge call. The opponent swaps out. They're trying to catch a resisted Poison Fang, but we actually full sent the Dragon Pulse there, and we can reach a second Dragon Pulse as well. Now Nidorina on the opponent's end, that is also quite a spicy pick here. Unfortunately, they live with barely 1 HP in a dream, but it doesn't matter. Thunderbolt gets the knockout. We've already got the Heat Wave loaded, so we can fire this off immediately into the Tropius coming back in. It's super effective. It gets the KO, and we're able to take that game. Now, heading into the next battle, we're going to see Shelter into a Gyarados. So, Shelter, honestly, one of the worst XL Pokemon that I've ever invested in. Honestly, it just feels super underwhelming, but we should be able to tank a Twister just barely up against a non-Shadow Gyarados, and we can fire back with the Icy Wind. Icy Wind is going to be no shielded. It is non-stab damage, so it doesn't deal too much damage, but hopefully with 1 shield here from the Frigibax, we should be able to Dragon Breath farm it down, and we're able to come out with quite a lot of energy. The opponent's going to come in with a Clodsire, and we've got Icy Wind as well as Avalanche. We're going for the Icy Wind first here. They likely do shield the first move, and now we might full send an Avalanche. This is going to do considerably more damage. Avalanche is going to connect, and it doesn't quite one-shot them, but it does huge damage. They're going to fluff an Acid Spray. That is absolutely fine with us. We are going to maybe just shield once and then commit to a full fast. We farm down here. Let's see. They go for another Acid Spray. That is quite frustrating. But their final Pokemon is going to be a Noctowl. Now, Noctowl, not ideal for us because they are going to resist the Shadow Ball. We have to settle for just a foul play. But the opponent, they should be over farming, and they don't. They throw immediately here. But Frigimax is pretty close to back-to-back charge moves already. We go for 1 Dragon Breath. We throw on perfect timing. Fire off the Icy Wind. Icy Wind going to grab the final shield, and we should have gone for Avalanche really, but it doesn't matter. Icy Wind still super effective. It takes out the Noctowl, and we take that game. Into the next battle, we are leading Houndstone into a Shadow Rhyperia. So, of course, we got two water types in the back line. We are going to look to swap out and potentially catch a drill run here where it's going to be double resisted. And note, they actually fire off a Surf, which is crazy to see, but it's also resisted damage, so it works out for us in the end as the opponent comes in with a Force Palm Shadow Hariyama. Now, Hariyama doesn't have the best matchups into flying types, however, it has an even worse matchup into our ghost type lead, so it makes a lot of sense for them to come in here. They're basically just looking to sacrifice it, but they do end up using a shield, which is quite interesting. Now we come back in with the Houndstone, and we're going to fire off a Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs is super effective. Shadow Hariyama is not very bulky, and that's going to put them into perfect range where we can just lick farm them down. Then I'm going to come in with a Shadow Typhlosion, and you know what? We're running Dig. We might as well full send it here. Dig coming through is unfortunately shielded by the opponent, but we can come in with our Finian. We're not really looking to make a catch here, and of course Thunder Punch is going to hit for super effective, so we're going to shield that. But they come back in with the Rhyperia, and unfortunately they're going to be fully Water Gun farm down there. Unfortunately, we don't actually have any super effective charge moves to throw, but we're going to go for the Bug type move anyways here as we fire off a Silver Wind. Silver Wind is not going to deal much damage. We don't get an unnecessary boost, but we can simply shield up the next Thunder Punch, commit to the Water Gun farm down, taking out Shadow Typhlosion, and we're able to take that game. So heading into the next battle, and this is going to be back in the Open Ultra League, we are going to lead with a Dragon Breath Aerodactyl into Turtonator. So that is a great lead matchup for us, and we can go straight for a Rock Slide. Rock Slide is going to grab a shield from the opponent, and because this is the Ultra League and this is a non-Shadow Aerodactyl, we can probably tank anything they throw here. They go for a Dragon Claw, they're now going to swap out into a Shadow Corviknight, and we're going to come in with an Alolan Marowak. Now, Marowak is level 50 for the Ultra League. It barely reaches above 2000 CP, but we've got access to Fire Blast, and do they expect this coming? We're full sending. Fire Blast gets the one-shot up against the Shadow Corviknight as they come back in with the Turtonator. At this point, we're going to no-shield this. We might even hang on here. They fire off the Dragon Claw. We are able to hang on just barely, and we can reach a departing Bone Club. Oh, sorry, Shadow Bone. Shadow Bone is going to deal decent damage. We tried to snipe with the Aerodactyl, not going to deal enough damage with the Dragon Breaths, so we settle for the Rock Slide. Rock Slide gets the knockout. Their final Pokemon is a Mimikyu, and that's actually great for us because we've got a normal type Pokemon in the back. Rock Slide is going to, of course, debuff their defense there, and they do commit to a full farm down. We come in with the Arbaliva, and of course, we are double resisting the Shadow Claw damage. We're going to no-shield the first move. The opponent is going to go for a Play Rough there, which means they probably could now get away with baiting with a Shadow Sneak. However, it doesn't really matter at this point. We can just safely shield that up there, and we should be able to outpace the back-to-back Trailblazers before they reach another Play Rough. Shadow Sneak is still double resisted. Trailblaze number 2 will be reached here, and of course, up against a debuff Mimikyu, it gets the knockout, and we're able to take that game. Now, heading into the next battle, we're going to see a Galarian Meowth in the lead. Now, this is a really low CP. I did check the stats. Like, this looks like it is severely underleveled. However, apparently, this is just a really awful IV shiny. It is slightly underleveled, I believe, like level 47, but just really bad stats. Honestly, I don't have a clue why you would build that Pokemon. But anyways, we're now going to come in with a Floatzel, commit to one shield, and then just Waterfall farming down the Skeledirge, coming out with a ton of energy as the opponent's now going to come in with a Primate. So we're going straight for Swift here, expecting a shield, but they actually no-shield that. We can go for a second Swift. Swift is going to deal some decent damage here. It should now grab a shield. No, they're fully sacrificing it as they come back in with the Florges, and we're going to swap out, look to make the catch back onto our Galarian Meowth. The opponent goes for a Trailblaze, boosting up their attack stats. However, that's absolutely fine with us. We can come in with a Buizel, and we are going to shield the first move. We've seen Trailblaze already, and we can just farm up to back-to-back Swifts here, and this should be game over. We've got energy on the Floatzel. We've got back-to-back charge moves here as well, so we're going to go for back-to-back Swifts. This should grab both shields from the opponent, and then we don't really need to swap out here. We just wait for the opponent to throw some energy, and that is going to be game over, because Floatzel is going to easily win CMP here. We've actually got access to the Liquidation as well, but doesn't matter. Swift gets the knockout, and we're able to take that game. Or potentially it might have been Aquachet. Either way, it doesn't really matter. Into the next battle, we've got Rhyhorn in the lead up against a Hisuian Avalugg. So, pretty spicy on the opponent's end here. Of course, we've got Zubat in the back, which, by the way, I believe this trainer has mentioned that they used an Elite TM. Well, we need to swap out of there as soon as possible as they come in with a Water Gun Caracosta. That is definitely not what a Rhyhorn wants to see. But we've got access to Dig on our EV here. And as I was mentioning with the Zubat, I believe this trainer has used Elite TM to get Legacy Sludge Bomb, which is such a crazy thing to do on like a 700 CP Zubat. But anyways, we come back in with the Rhyhorn. And we are going immediately for a Bulldoze. Bulldoze going to be shielded, but we can reach a second Bulldoze before they farm us down. Bulldoze number 2 double shielded there, but we do drop their defense, which means they are going to be in range where one quick attack gets the farm down, and they've actually got a Zeraora in the back line. This does look like it is under-leveled slightly, but it doesn't really matter. They full sent a Wild Charge, debuffing their own defense, which means Sludge Bomb from Zubat takes out the Zeraora, and we're able to take that game. Now, speaking of Legacy, this is also going to be an unobtainable Legacy Quick Attack Starmie. Now, you might be familiar with Homeslice Henry's legendary 100% IV Starmie that he has built for the Master League, which had made some incredible videos. Honestly, some of my favorite GBL videos of all time, which might be your answer to the question of the day. But of course, this is in the Open Great League, and here we're going for an Ice Beam. Ice Beam is going to be shielded by the opponent, but they do look to overfarm here, and so we can reach a last second Aquajet. Aquajet is not going to grab the shield, however, it does get them very low, and the opponent cannot commit to a farm down, otherwise we'll be able to farm them down instead. So at this point, of course, we are going to let that go through. We're going to come in with a Musharna here, and we are on Charge Beam, so super effective fast pressure. We're now going to swap out straight away as the opponent comes in at the same time with a Florges. At this point, we're going straight for a Psyshock. Psyshock is going to be shielded by the opponent. That is a CMP tie. At this point, that should be game over. We can just no-shield the Chilling Water. Unfortunately, that might put us into perfect farm down range, but no, the opponent does not commit to the farm down. Instead, they go for another Chilling Water there, which means we can come back in with the Musharna. We can go straight for a Psyshock, and from this range, with the Fire Spin damage, Psyshock will not quite get the KO, but it doesn't really matter at this point. Of course, we've still got a shield. We don't necessarily need to use it, but we will shield here, go for one more Charge Beam, farm down the Fearow, and we're able to take that game. Now, into the next battle back in the Open Ultra League, and we've actually got the full Shadow Ghastly evolution line here with a level 50 best buddied Shadow Haunter leading into a Tinkaton, grabbing a shield there immediately. And we can actually live a Bulldoze, which is going to be crazy to see. Not very comfortably, and these Fairy Winds are dealing quite a lot of damage here, despite being resisted, but we can reach a second Shadow Punch, and we're actually able to grab both shields from the opponent. That is crazy to see. Now, we're going to come in with our Shadow Gengar. This time around, we will look to shield here, because otherwise, we've only got a Ghastly in the back line. But here, the opponent's going to be swapping out into a Feraligatr. We're going to look to overfarm as much as possible here. Go for the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is going to get the one shot, and let's see what they want to do. The opponent's going to come in with a Jellicent, and of course, we can go straight for a second Shadow Ball. This is super effective. Shadow Ball number 2 gets the one shot. Now we swap out into our Shadow Ghastly, and we're actually going to look to shield here. Unfortunately, I think they will outpace us to back-to-back Bulldozes, but it doesn't really matter. Bulldoze, of course, should be taking out a Shadow Ghastly, but now our Gengar should be able to outpace them, or actually, maybe we just Shadow Claw farm it down. We get that Shadow Claw farm down, and we're able to take that game. Now, into the next battle, we have got the Dream Lead for a Togepi leading into a Guzzlord. Now, Togepi is not a Fairy and Flying type, just a Fairy type Pokemon. But either way, Dazzling Gleam is going to grab a shield from the Guzzlord. And the fact that they're staying in here, they probably have Sludge Bomb, so we might just respect this anyways. And yes, it is the Sludge Bomb. They go straight for the next move. However, this is not going to be another Sludge Bomb. That's just a Brutal Swing, which we tank pretty comfortably as they swap out into a Mantine. And we've got a Pikachu. I don't honestly know what this outfit is, but either way, Twister coming through. We can now look to overfarm. Thunder Punch is going to hit for double super effective damage, and of course Thunder Punch is going to get the knockout. But wait a second here, we've also got access to Play Rough, and no way, Pikachu just one-shots 2 Pokemon back to back. Play Rough, double super effective as well. That also gets the KO. Their final Pokemon gonna be a Shadow Kanto Ninetales. We spam out these Psyshocks. Unfortunately, they're not going to deal too much damage here, but it doesn't really matter. We have got a Shuckle Shuckle in the backline. And if you don't know, Shuckle is the Pokemon with the highest defense stat in the entire game, and honestly, there is just not much as Ninetales will be able to do. We fire off another Side Shock, we grab the final shield, in comes Shuckle, and as you can see, these rock throws, they don't deal that much damage, but it's completely irrelevant. Shuckle, only 463 CP, yet tanking these moves like it's absolutely nothing. Weather Ball, number 2, that is going to get us into the yellow health range. They reach a third Weather Ball, but it's completely irrelevant, and you know what? Just because we can, we are going for the Gyro Ball BM. This is resisted damage from a Shuckle, but it takes out the Kanto Ninetales, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, going to lead Staryu into a Shadow Abomasnow. We got 2 fire types in the back, so we do just swap out straight away, and we're met with a Credilli. We swap out into a Purified Charmander. We fire off the Flamethrower straight away, and they're actually going to use a shield. Not ideal for us because, well, okay, never mind. They're going to go for a Bulldoze. I was going to say, not ideal because they're about to debuff our attack stat, but that is not the case because they're on Bulldoze. They go for another Bulldoze. Luckily for us, they don't get another debuff, but unfortunately for us, it looks like we do end up lagging there, and as a result, we give them a Bullet Seed in for free. But either way, I think at this point we do just no shield. Bulldoze is going to get the knockout. Honestly, we have no clue what their other charge move is going to be, but turns out we're not even going to find out because we farmed them down. But now they come in with a Charge Beam Lantern, and as you can tell, this is certainly a low elo range battle, but we fire off the Power Gem. At this point, we probably just sacrifice the Staryu. Staryu going to go down to a Thunderbolt, but now we can come in with the Fury Coco, and of course, the opponent on Charge Beam. If they throw immediately, we get the Incinerate in for free, and that should just wrap up this game for us, because now we can farm up to 100 energy. We're at back-to-back crunches. First one probably grabs the final shield. It does from the Lantern, but we can go immediately for a second crunch. Crunch number 2 gets the knockout. They come back in with the Abomasnow, and these Incinerates absolutely shredding through their HP. The opponent fires off the Weather Ball. That is nowhere near enough damage to get the knockout, and just for the sake of it, this time around, we fire off a Disarming Voice, taking out the Shadow Abomasnow, and we're able to take that game. So heading into the next battle, and this is certainly the lowest elo range battle of the video, but we're going to be leading Zubat into a Skeledirge, and at the very least, the opponent has fully powered up their Pokemon. Unfortunately, we are going to throw on Alignment there, probably looking to throw on CMP. However, the opponent does opt for the extra Incinerate. They farm up to 100 energy, and they full send a Shadow Ball, and likely they're going to full send another Shadow Ball. So at this point, we're going to double shield this, as the opponent is now actually, unfortunately, going to be outpaced to back-to-back crunches. So we fire off the first one. Crunch is going to be shielded, and now we can full send a Rock Slide. Of course, Rock Slide is going to be stab damage. Rock Slide gets the KO there, and now they're going to come in with a Jinx of all Pokemon. This is certainly a low elo battle, but we go for a Crunch there. Crunch actually caught, so despite the fact that they're using a Jinx, that is quite a nice play on the opponent's end, and now we fire off another Crunch. Crunch number 2 thrown on CMP, winning CMP, and of course, Bulldoze will get the knockout. We are going to come in with the Gimmighoul, and by the way, if you are wondering, that Gimmighoul is single move because it only learns a single move. Now, we're actually able to catch a resisted Bulldoze there. They swap back into Jinx. They fire off the charge move. The opponent goes for an Avalanche, gets the knockout, but we can come in, Astonish, farm them all the way down with the Gimmighoul. And by the way, Gimmighoul, whilst I did mention it is single move because it only has one move, it is actually quite under-leveled there, so you do have to take that into account. But either way, we're able to take out the Tinkaton and take that game. Now into the next battle, and this is a triple level 50 team. No Pokemon are going to be underleveled in this battle. However, a Rookidee is only going to reach 753 CP, but we're able to reach the Payback. Payback goes unshielded, and it's actually a simultaneous KO. That is insane from the Rookidee. They're now going to come back in with Lucario, and we can come in with our Natu, where of course we are double resisting the fast move pressure. We're going to shield as they fire off a Blaze Kick, and now we're going immediately for a Psyshock. Psyshock is going to hit for neutral damage. Likewise, so would a Drill Peck. They're going to swap out into Gastrodon, and we can come in with the Rowlet. And of course, this is such a dominant matchup, despite the fact that, what the hell, they went for an Earth Power. Trainer, that is triple resisted. That is definitely not the play. Now, we've only got resisted damage to throw, but it doesn't really matter at this point. The opponent, they are hitting for resisted fast move pressure as well. The opponent gonna concede the match there to a triple level 50 bird team, and we're able to take that game. Now heading into the next battle here, we're going to lead with a Shadow Mareep into a Shadow Mighty Enna. So obviously they are going to deal a lot of fast move pressure, but they're going to swap out and they also catch a discharge onto a Shadow Nidoqueen, but they're on Mud Slap. We can come in with an insanely rare shiny Great League Rayquaza, and we are going to shield the Poison Fang. We're now going to look to overfarm here. We're going to farm up to 100 energy and then fire off the Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe, of course, going to debuff their attack stat as well. It is going to not debuff our defense stat, but either way, they're going to come back in with the Mighty Enna, and we're going straight for another Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe should be grabbing a shield, and it's actually somehow a CMP tie there, despite the fact that we did throw a single Dragon Tail first. But either way, we're now going to swap out, swapping into a Shadow Sphere here, and unfortunately, they will outpace us to the first move, but this is Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs doesn't KO, and we're able to reach a last second Water Pulse. Water Pulse, gonna be shielded by the Steelix, and looks like the opponent is gonna lag just slightly there, and that does allow us to get off a few more Water Guns. We now come in with our Shadow Mareep. We're, of course, resisting the fast move pressure. We go for Trailblaze. Trailblaze honestly does respectable damage, and the opponent is going to be forced to throw some energy. Psychic Fangs is going to get the knockout this time around. Rayquaza able to fully Dragon Tail farm them down. Again, it does look like they're lagging. Whether or not they'd make it to a charge move, I don't know. But Dragon Ascent easily takes out Mighty Enna, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, we've certainly got a Cynthia-inspired team here, as we've got Shiny Lucario in the lead up against a Mantine. We're going to swapping out into a Shiny Milotic, and we're going immediately for the wrap. Now, honestly, Milotic, I feel like, is a very underrated Pokemon in the current meta. The opponent is going to stay in this matchup, firing off likely a Twister. Twister does decent damage, and we might just barely hang on here, but I don't think we reach another wrap, so we are just going to settle for an Arctotail, but that's okay with us. Of course, we've already debuffed the defense. Arctotail will put them into range, where we can actually force palm, farm them down before they even reach a move. Now, unfortunately, we're going to be met with an Annihilate. We go straight for a Meteor Mash. Meteor Mash is going to be shielded. So now we come in with our Shadow Garchomp, and the opponent is going to come in with their final Pokemon, which of course is going to be a rollout Licky Licky. We are resisting the fast move pressure here. We're going to drop the defense there with a Sand Tomb, and then of course look to shield the Body Slam. We are now going to no-shield the next move most likely, because we do know it is just a Body Slam, and then you can see our Switch Clock is now coming up. So we're going to swap out back into Lucario, and we should actually live the Body Slam here. However, I don't know if that's necessarily what we want, because they can come back in with the Annihilate, but we're actually on Outrage here. Outrage, gonna be no-shielded. It gets the one-shot, and then again, of course, up against the Licky Licky, we are resisting the fast move pressure. This time around, we go for the Sand Tomb. We're able to grab the final shield there. Sand Tomb already debuffed them once. Sand Tomb number 2 doesn't get the knockout, but we can Mudshot farm them down with the Shadow Garchomp to take that game. Into the next battle, we've got an Avengers-themed team here with the Hulk in the lead up against Charizard. Now, unfortunately, Charizard is kind of going to core break the entire team. Now, we swap out. We try to catch an Air Cutter onto Iron Man, or Meltan, as you probably know it in Pokemon Go. We're going to shield. They're actually on Dragon Claw, and then they come in with a Venusaur. That is such an odd decision here, but we're going for Flash Cannon. Flash Cannon is going to connect. It does big damage. We're going to no-shield this, and the opponent goes for a double resisted Sludge. Trainer, what are you doing? We are now going to look to throw it. Unfortunately, we throw it on CMP, which is not ideal for us either, and we're actually going to shield a double resisted Sludge, but we're also going to go for a tactical undercharge here. Thunderbolt still gets the knockout anyway, so I guess it doesn't really make a difference there, but we come back in with the Hulk. Dynamic Punch is going to be shielded, and the opponent, they're going to allow us to reach another move here. So do they double shield the Charizard? I guess we're about to find out. No, they fully sacrifice it. Their final Pokemon is going to be a Azumarill, but now we can just spam out these Brick Breaks, and of course Brick Break not going to do much damage whatsoever, but this is their final Pokemon. They cannot swap out and clear the debuffs, so that should just be game over now. Brick Break number 2 gonna get them fairly low, and the opponent realizing they can't really commit to the farm down. They have to throw energy. They go for an Ice Beam, and now we can come back in with the Iron Man. We're now going to swap out into Thor with the Hammer. The opponent gonna fire off another Ice Beam. That is resisted damage. That's certainly game over. They still have a shield, but it doesn't really matter. We are once again gonna full send a Flash Cannon. Flash Cannon gonna grab the final shield there. I doubt they've got Hydro Pump, otherwise they would have thrown it already. They go for Play Rough. That's also resisted damage. Here, we could go for another Play Rough, but instead, you know what? We're going for the Flash Cannon. We go for the Undercharge. Flash Cannon takes out the Azumarill, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, we've got a triple hundo level 50 baby team with actually 2 shundos. Now, coincidentally, I did also just hatch a shiny baby hundo. It was a Budew, however, which unfortunately it doesn't get to a very high CP. It's not going to be very competitive, but these Pokemon are actually relatively competitive here as we come in with a shundo Lucario. We're going to look to shield this and then commit to a full counter farm down. So the opponent is going to, of course, grab both of our shields, but we come out with decent energy. Unfortunately, our energy isn't quite useful into Altaria, but we swap back into Smoochum. We fire off the Ice Punch, and Ice Punch is going to grab the final shield, as now they come in with a Licky Licky. But Smoochum not done just yet, as we can fire off a Psyshock, and Psyshock is going to connect for some decent damage. Now the opponent is going to throw just before we reach the next move. Very good timing by the opponent there, as they fire off the Body Slam, but that's okay with us. We've got the energy on our Riolu. We're going to come in, we're going to sponge some damage here on our Mantike first, as the opponent fires off the Shadow Ball, but you can see we are very bulky. We then swap out into Riolu. We go for the Snipe with the Cross Chop, and Cross Chop is going to get the knockout. Of course, all shields are now down. All we need to do is survive a charge move, and we've also got access to Ice Beam, which we throw immediately. So, of course, Ice Beam, double super effective. It takes out the Altaria, and we take that game. Now into the next battle, another triple level 50 team here. We have got a very blue team here with Tirtuga leading into a Charm Sylveon. So we're going to go straight for a Body Slam here. Most Charmers just love to double shield, which is very frustrating. So we do just go for the cheaper energy move. Now we swap out at the same time as the opponent swaps into a Zeraora. But we've got a Litwick. We are going to shield the Plasma Fist and then fire off I don't even know what this is here, maybe Mystical Fire. Mystical Fire is going to debuff their attack stats, and we get the full Ember farm down. We are going to see, Astonish farm down. We're going to see a Soul Rock in the back here. We are going to go for another Mystical Fire. That is unfortunately resisted damage, but now we can come in with the Wooper, and we're probably going to no-shield the first move as the opponent goes for a Psychic. That is a crazy moveset to be on, but we can go for a Dig. Dig is super effective. Mud Bomb. Man, I'm getting all these moves wrong right now. Either way, it's super effective. You know what I mean. We don't actually commit to full farm down there. I feel like maybe we could have done, but either way, Body Slam is going to get the knockout. Their final Pokemon, of course, is the Sylveon. We're going to look to shield here as the opponent full sends a Shadow Ball, which means we should now be able to reach a Surf before they can reach another charge move. And of course, from this range, Surf will get the knockout, and we're able to take that game. So, heading into the next battle, another triple level 50 team here. This time a triple poison team as we lead with Bellsprout into Altaria. Now, unfortunately, we are triple weak to Altaria, so how on earth do we win this battle? Well, honestly, that Wrap did quite a lot of damage there. We're going to swap out into a Spinnerack, and honestly, every single time I've used a cross poison user recently, it seems to get the attack boost straight away. Unfortunately, this Spinnerack is not going to get that boost, so at this point, do we just no shield here and fully sacrifice it? Yes, we do. Unfortunately, no cross poison boost here, but we come back in with the Bellsprout. Unfortunately, not able to fully fast move farm them down. However, we are going to look to shield, and then we do get the full farm down, but we're down a shield, but they're now going to come in with a Unova Stunfisk. So we go straight for Power Whip. Power Whip is unfortunately shielded, but we're going to swap out into Oddish, and the opponent is going to chip here with a Mud Bomb. Mud Bomb doesn't do too much damage, but they swap out into Azumarill, and that is a fine matchup for us, especially so far ahead on energy, as now we can full send a Sludge Bomb. Sludge Bomb does big damage, and we're also able to reach a Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb is going to get the knockout. They come back in with the Stunfisk, and we're able to reach a Seed Bomb on the CMP tie. That is absolutely huge for us. Seed Bomb going to hit for super effective damage. Of course, that's CMP, which we win. Mud Bomb gets the knockout, but can we reach a Power Whip? It doesn't look like it, but can a Wrap get the knockout? Wrap does take out the Stunfisk somehow. Honestly, Bellsprout pretty attack weighted there, and we're able to take that game. Now, heading into the next battle, we've just got a trio of shadow green gooey kind of Pokemon. We're going to lead with Reuniclus into a Clodsire. Honestly, I've got no idea what our fast move hidden power is, but either way, we are going to see, well, the typing of it anyways. We're going to see a Psyshock coming through. Psyshock does decent damage there, but unfortunately, it's not going to put them into farm down range really, because we're just not dealing that much fast move pressure, but they're on Acid Spray, and so we come in, unfortunately not able to fast move farm them down here, but this should just be another acid spray, which doesn't do too much damage. However, we are very glassy, and unfortunately, we're not quite going to reach a thunder. So we do just settle for the Psy Shock. Psy Shock is still going to deal huge damage, though. Duosion. Man, I'm just getting everything wrong right now. Duosion is a very attack-weighted Pokemon. We can now come in with the Garbodor. Unfortunately, looks like we lose CMP here, which is not ideal for us. Nope, never mind. I guess that just wasn't a CMP tie. Their final Pokemon is a Bullet Seed Credilli, and so here we're going to go straight for a Psy Shock. Psy Shock is going to connect once again, and the opponent is now going to fire for Charge straight away. The opponent goes for the Rock Tomb, which is going to get the knockout, but now we can come in with our Garbodor. They have to start shielding, so maybe could have baited with a Body Slam, but we go for the Seed Bomb just to guarantee the knockout. And so at this point, we are going to no-shield this first move. Rock Tomb doesn't deal too much damage. They come back in with the Blastoise, and it looks like we do win CMP, actually. We obviously just didn't throw it the first time around, so Body Slam is going to grab the final shield. Now, we can just come in, go for the Bullet Seed, farm down. We come out with decent energy there. We are still debuffed, but it doesn't really matter at this point. Seed Bomb will get the KO up against the Credilli, and we're able to take that game. Now into the next battle, we're going to lead with a Unknown into a Florges. Now, Unknown is honestly such an awful Pokemon. I believe it's got Hidden Power and Struggle as its options for fast and charge moves, and those are basically the only options. I think maybe you've also got Zen Headbutt, which is absolutely awful. So basically, we are just sacrificing this Pokemon completely. It just has zero play there whatsoever. Now we're going to come in with the Pikachu, and by the way, there are quite a few Pikachu in this video, but I believe every single one of them has a different outfit and a different signature move. So quite cool to see. We're now going to swap out into Smoochum as they come in with a Clodsire, and we're going straight for Psy Shock. Psy Shock does huge damage, and that should put them into range where we can just safely shield once and then commit to a full Powder Snow farm down. And even better for us, their final Pokemon is Altaria, so Smoochum, Core Break in their backline. Ice Punch is, of course, going to grab a shield here. I wouldn't be surprised if we can just commit to a full Powder Snow farm down here, but we are going to go for the Ice Punch straight away anyways. Just look to grab that final shield immediately. Nope, never mind. They're actually going to no-shield that. We probably swap out expecting them to shield there, which isn't really ideal for us. However, Meteor Mash not shielded by the Clodsire, and as a result, that's going to be game over. We take that game. Into the next battle, we've got a trio of bug types, leading with a Shundo Joltik, which is really cool to see. Leading into a Lantern, we swap out there just because Shelmet, despite having a lower CP, is actually quite bulky here. So we're going to no-shield as they fire off the Surf, and unfortunately, quite a lot of lag there on both ends it looks like, and unfortunately, we just barely miss out on reaching a charge move before they throw a second Surf. But we can now look to overfarm here. We're going to go straight for a Bug Buzz. Bug Buzz, even though it is a lot of energy, it's not going to deal much damage because we are just not very attack weighted at all, but we can reach a second Bug Buzz just before they farm us down. Now, Bug Buzz actually grabs the first shot from the opponent. Now we can come in with Paris, where of course we are going to resist everything, being a grass type. Surf is still going to do quite a lot of damage there, surprisingly, but we can see a Ferrothorn coming in. Now, unfortunately, we don't throw it on the best timing there, but Cross Poison also going to be no-shielded, and like I mentioned already, Cross Poison was giving me boosts like all the time, but unfortunately no boost just yet. Do we get the boost this time? No, we're not able to do so, but they swap out into Wigglytuff, where we've got a lot of energy here. Cross Poison, yes, we finally get a Cross Poison boost. That is huge for us, and we can fire off another one straight away. Cross Poison number 2 gets a second boost. Absolutely huge for us as the opponent comes back in with the Ferrothorn. That should now be game over. The opponent going to go for a Power Whip there. They've got back-to-back charge, which doesn't really matter. We put them into range where we should be able to Bug Bite farm them down. But actually, Joltik is not done just yet. We can reach another Cross Poison. Of course, we can't possibly get the boost this time, but we snipe with the Bug Bite damage, and we take that game. So, just as I mentioned here, another Pikachu. This time, it is going to be the Sailor Hat Pikachu, I guess. I don't know if it's got a specific name. Either way, such a great matchup here as the opponent swaps out into Gastron. This time around, however, they are going to correctly throw the Body Slam instead of full sending an Earth Power, which is triple resisted. we're going to no shield again. We should just be able to go for a full leafage farm down here. It is going to be very close, but we're able to get the farm down and come out with a ton of energy. And of course, this energy isn't very useful into the Firo coming back in. However, Energy Ball is going to potentially drop the defense here. It doesn't the first time around, but Energy Ball number 2 is going to be shielded there. Maybe shielding the potential threat of like a Brave Bird or something, which of course we don't have, but the opponent just probably unfamiliar with the Rowlet moveset anyways. We're going to come in with the Pikachu. The opponent swaps out there, and they're able to catch a Thunder Punch, or sorry, a Discharge into their Licky Licky. Now, unfortunately, we do not have an answer in the form of our Butterfree at all, because actually, these rollouts are double super effective. Shadow Ball gets the KO there. That is certainly not ideal in the slightest. We come back in with the Pikachu. The opponent gonna full send an Earthquake. That is insane from them. We're now gonna go for a Discharge here. Discharge should be enough damage to get the knockout, and the opponent is just gonna save the shield for the Licky Licky, but now we're going for Volt Tackle. Volt Tackle actually got buffed a few seasons ago, and it does enough damage to put them into range where a single Thunder Shock gets the farm down, and we take that game. And into the next battle, we've got a triple fire team here, leading into another fire-type Pokemon, which also has pretty good matchups into most other fire types. But of course, Volcanion has access to Scald. Scald is going to hit for double super effective, and even if they debuff us several times, this Scald likely is still going to get the one-shot anyways, so we are just going to throw the next one straight away. Scald number 2 is going to be double shielded, and at this point we might actually just let the Volcanion go down. Yeah, we're going to no shield this, and now we can come in with our Shadow Camerupt potentially. Yeah, we're going to come in with the Camerupt. Unfortunately, well, we could go for the Earth Power straight away, but actually instead we're going to opt to overfarm here. So the opponent fires off the Rock Tomb. We can now farm up to 100 energy. Of course, Earth Power is still double super effective. It will comfortably get the knockout, but let's see what they want to do. They're going to come in with a Gastrodon, but wait a second here. We are debuffed, but Shadow Camerupt does not care. We've got Solar Beam. Solar Beam one-shots the Gastrodon, and their final Pokemon is a Bombsnow, and they see the Heatmor. They instantly can see the match, and so we're able to take that game. Now going into the final battle, and this is crazy. We have got, first of all, a pretty spicy Great League team anyways, but we're actually running it in the Ultra League. So, of course, Tinkertuff, Pachirisu, and the Satitan, or sorry, the Satodal, none of them reach actually 1500 CP, yet we're going up against Ultra League Pokemon here. And, yeah, this battle is going to be absolutely crazy. We're going to no-shield this. We should be able to live and reach another Charge Brief here. Play Rough should get the knockout here. Actually, though, they are debuffed, so no, they do just barely hang on, which is unfortunate for us. I think we should have just gone for the Flash Cannon there. But either way, Chilling Water gets the knockout. We're going to come in with the Pachirisu and actually get quite a hefty farm down, which could be quite beneficial for us. Now, they're going to come in with a Mimikyu, which, of course, can just no-shield the first move, but now we drop that defense. That's honestly quite ideal. At this point, Pachirisu is fairly bulky here, so we might just no-shield. Yeah, we're going to no-shield. Shadow Sneak still does decent damage, but this time around, we are full sending a Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt, going to be no-shielded. It still doesn't really deal that much damage, but we swap out into Satodal. The opponent is going to swap out into a Togekiss. Now, they still have 2 shields here, so we're going to bait with a Body Slam, but they no-shield the first. So this time around, we're full sending Avalanche. Do they no-shield again? Avalanche, not shielded. It does insane damage, and now we can just Powder Snow farm them all the way down. And remember, Mimikyu is permanently debuffed here, so we are dealing decent damage with our fast moves. Of course, we're going to have to look to shield here as the opponent fires off the Shadow Sneak. Honestly, can we get the farm down? It doesn't look likely, so we swap into Pachirisu, but can we still win this game here? It's going to be super close. One more Powder Snow gets the farm down, but it's actually a simultaneous KO, and it is a tie. And unfortunately, the requirements for the Battle of Spice is that you have to get a win. So whilst I did include this battle in the video because it was insane, unfortunately, I cannot include them in the poll options because they did not win. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.